The next stage of war in the Middle East is imminent, according to Israel's Prime Minister, as it prepares to attack Gaza by air, land and sea. But the area is already in the depths of despair. Food and water are critically low and rockets keep falling, even in designated safe zones. 3,600 people have been killed on both sides, the Palestinian death toll passing 2,300, making it the deadliest war in Gaza's history.
They had been guaranteed 6 hours of safe passage. Young children and their parents obeying an Israeli order to flee south if they wanted to live. Killed when strikes hit their convoy, toddlers amongst the dozens of victims. This was on a road they had been instructed to use by Israeli authorities. Ambulances also hit.
They have targeted all the people who are transferring from the north to the south. They have targeted us now. They have targeted us now.
Overwhelmed hospitals inundated with the injured. This paramedic collapsing on the ground. They bombed displaced people in trucks, he says. Palestinian authorities blame Israel, which says it's investigating.
So it makes no sense for the IDF to have done it. Who would want to stop those same civilians? The same organization that did the roadblocks, Hamas.
With every passing hour, the situation is becoming more desperate.
It is not safe for people to be moving minute by minute. They have no idea if their family will be annihilated.
Ice cream trucks are being used to store the dead, with morgues at capacity. 35,000 people are sheltering at Gaza City Hospital in the north, hoping for safety in numbers. Here, more than 100 babies have been orphaned.
The healthcare system was always extremely fragile. We considered it a humanitarian chronic emergency over many, many years, and now it's a complete catastrophe.
The south is hardly a safe haven. It bore the brunt of Israeli strikes today. And as tens of thousands of refugees arrive there, resources are already critical. The UN says access to water has become a matter of life and death, pleading for an end to Israel's total blockade.
We're not out to hurt the Gaza people, but we're also not responsible for them.
But there will be more hurt. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visiting troops at the border, saying the next stage is coming and asking soldiers, are you ready? The military has now announced an impending air, sea and land attack. The statement, with no timings or specifics, has threatened to wipe Hamas off the face of the earth.
We are 10 kilometres from the northern Gaza border, and as you can see, there's fields of IDF tanks amassing here, waiting for their next order, which could be an all-out ground assault.
But the mood changed quickly.
Up to the car. We need to go? Yeah, I need to go.
We need to leave?
It's a closed area.
Is it dangerous here?
Yeah, it's a military area.
You need us to leave? All right.
Yes.
Leave.
We'll leave now.
Thank you.
We'll leave now. We're seeing more and more tanks start to roll right past us, heading towards Gaza, as the intensity is really picking up in these last couple of minutes.
Reservists from around the world have flown in to join Israel's war against Hamas. At a checkpoint in Sderot, we came across a soldier from Sydney's eastern suburbs who had a message for his family.
I miss them and I hope they're safe, because I heard there were all sorts of awful outrages in Australia.
For the families of the 150 hostages, the agonising wait for answers. What started as a lone protest by one family member today grew to hundreds of Israelis begging for their own government to do more.
Israeli government should say that she will release all the Palestinians we hold in our prison in condition for our kidnap.
Today, Israel says it's killed one of the leaders of last week's attack. The Hamas commander was released from Israeli jail in a prisoner swap in 2011. In southern Israel, Alison Petrowski, 9 News.
All right, 9/0 correspondent Edward Godfrey is in Sderot near the Gaza border. Edward, you have breaking news on Israeli Defence Force movements.
Yeah, Pete, the IDF has given a warning to residents inside Gaza. They've got 3 hours from now until 1 o'clock this afternoon local time to try and move south to get to safety. But we've seen just how difficult that is for residents and civilians, that many, to move south and try and get to shelter. Over my right shoulder here, this is a live shot straight into Gaza, right over the border there. And in the last hour or so, things have really escalated. There's been a huge amount of shelling and airstrikes by Israeli forces. And we've also heard several rounds of sustained machine gun fire. So some really close battling going on ahead of this anticipated incursion, Pete.
OK, Edward, thank you. Trapped Australians in Israel have a glimmer of hope tonight as the federal government confirms multiple repatriation flights are scheduled to depart in the coming hours. While it's a relief for the hundreds stranded, there's no end in sight for those trying to cross the border into Egypt.
Tamara Porat from Sydney is one of the lucky ones, but she says it's bittersweet.
This is very difficult. I'm torn. My family, my mother, who's 75, my sister and her family, extended family are all here.
Tamara is leaving Israel for Australia after earlier repatriation flights were cancelled, deemed too dangerous. But help has arrived.
The Australian government is planning multiple flights to depart from Tel Aviv today for Australians wanting to leave. This is a mixture of government chartered and Air Force planes.
The Foreign Minister is also trying to get 20 Australians out of Gaza. At its border with Egypt, the queue to flee is growing.
It's a really scary thing for me.
The Rafah crossing is the only way from Gaza into Egypt. It's about 4 kilometres north of the Israeli border. Foreigners had been told they could leave, but Egypt suggests they can't until Israel lets aid in. Hamas claims Palestinians are going nowhere.
I'm telling my brothers in Egypt, our decision is to stay in our lands.
And tonight there's a warning war could spread as Iranian and Hamas leaders embrace. Tehran says it will get involved if Israel invades Gaza. And Iran's foreign minister says if Lebanese militant group Hezbollah ramps up its attack, Israel will feel a huge earthquake. It led to this warning to Australians.
If you are in Lebanon, you should consider whether your need to remain there is essential.
Today, the US president spoke to Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas and Israel's Benjamin Netanyahu. Outside the White House, protests against Israel's attacks on Gaza.
Biden, you can't hide!
As the anger from pro-Palestinian supporters builds, the concern is what happens next in a conflict that has already claimed so many lives. Tonight, some pray in hope, but the light is fading. In Washington, D.C., Jonathan Kersley, 9 News.